love RPGs, but I've never played a Persona game. Brushing over how that's even possible, I wondered whether that ship had kind of already sailed for me. But seeing so many people playing and absolutely loving Persona 5 recently, I decided to dive in. Would I be totally lost, or would I just not get it? Neither, actually. If you're thinking of doing the same, here are 8 things you should probably know first.
Okay.
It's a lot darker than you would have thought for something that features a talking cat. I'm not really sure what I expected when starting a Persona game for the first time, but subplots about sexual assault, suicide, slut-shaming and criminal records within the first few hours really took me by surprise. The game can kind of vary in its sensitivity in dealing with some of these issues, but its overarching theme of rebellion in the face of authoritarian regimes, from high school to government, is also not what I was expecting. And whether intentional or not, it mirrors a lot of current real-world issues and talking points. And the result is a surprisingly deep plot that gives you a lot to think about in between all the heart-stealing and demon-slaying, without getting too preachy about it. The fact that you can comfortably swerve between discussing possible terrorist attacks with your surly coffee-brewing legal guardian and fighting an honest-to-goodness penis monster inside a fairy tale castle with people dressed as a thuggish pirate and a latex-clad dominatrix is kind of a testament to the game's writing, I'd say. I can't believe how good it looks. It was probably seeing so many screenshots on social media that made me decide to finally pick up Persona 5, and honestly, I've never played a game with such inventive menus and loading screens. Yeah, whoever thought you'd be saying that about loading screens? When travelling from one place to another in Tokyo, the loading screens change depending on where you're going, what time it is, and what mode of transportation you're using. It's such a small thing, but it adds so much to how alive the world feels. Other games might shy away from the fact that so much of an RPG is spent looking at boxes and menus. But Persona 5 makes every menu, every transition, every interaction look as colourful and stylish as possible. The result is an overall experience that's really quite special.
Okay guys, let's do it!
But, oh boy, is there a lot of tutorial to get through. It's great that Persona 5 is a standalone game, meaning that, like the Final Fantasy series, there are some thematic carryovers from previous Persona titles, but otherwise, you don't need to have played any of the other games before getting stuck right in. The downside to this is that it takes hours for the game to explain all of the fairly complex systems and mechanics at play. It's a lot to learn, but the game does take its time to make sure that you aren't overwhelmed. I'm almost 20 hours in now and still getting tutorial messages, and I'm pretty sure that if that's starting to annoy me, it's got to be fairly infuriating for series experts. But it's a good thing in the long run, I think. Persona fusions, confidants, arcanas, interrogations, ambushes, holdups, all-out attacks. There's so much to remember that my first trip to a palace, the dungeons of the game, was really intimidating. But because of all the groundwork that went into the lead-up, I felt like I had a pretty good grasp of it in the end. I get the feeling that you're in for the long haul with this game. Patience is a virtue and good preparation is a skill in itself. That said, I don't think I have ever been this stressed out about time management, even in real life. There's something about a game setting a strict time limit that puts me deep in panic mode. And Persona 5 is all about reminding you of the slow march of time at every possible opportunity. Every activity you engage in, you're forced to weigh up the benefits of before undertaking. Is this a productive use of my time, or is it just going to waste it? It's kind of brutal, but Persona 5's gradual introduction to deadlines and other time-sensitive mechanics does help to lessen the stress. Plus, there's just so much fun stuff to do. You can go do some studying in a diner, you can work part-time at a beef bowl restaurant, you can read, make coffee, go fishing, go explore a dungeon, but you also need to work, sleep, and spend time with your friends and allies.
Oh, it's like a meaty explosion in my mouth.
Oh, this part's cream cheese!
Warning, Persona 5 will make you very, very hungry. Seriously. You'll be looking at platefuls of katsu curry and heaving ramen bowls so appetizing you can practically smell them. The way the game lovingly describes the process of making a fresh cup of coffee from bean to brew is so sensual it borders on pornographic. There are diners where your protagonist will wolf down a huge steak dinner and burger bars offering takeout. And the team takes a special trip to the Wilton Hotel buffet. I'm guessing Hilton hotels weren't up for a shout out, but if you Google the Marble Lounge at the Hilton Tokyo, you'll see the location is a pretty close match. It's actually a little bit cheaper than what the Phantom Thieves were charged for it too. But everything on the menu, from the grapefruit tart to the mountains of meat and rice dishes, looks so good. Which kind of brings me to my next point.
Hey, calories.
Shut up!
Portals to the Velvet Room aside, Persona 5 is actually a really decent recreation of what Tokyo looks and feels like. I've been to Tokyo once and stayed just around the corner from Shibuya Station, and the station square in the game looks pretty much exactly like I remember it. It was cool to be able to look across in the distance and see buildings where they would be, and to correctly find your way to the Hachiko statue from memory. Obviously, it's still a stylized version of the real thing, but it's more than just how things look. It's the way the game captures how it feels to wander around a city like Tokyo as a newcomer, with interesting shops and restaurants and even supermarkets to wander into for a look around. And it's clear the developer has a lot of love for the place, from the gleaming underground shopping malls to the way the city lights up at night. If you haven't been to Japan before, Persona 5 can certainly make you feel like you have. School is stressful, and your teenage years are way more dramatic than I remember. A common theme of the game is teenagers rising up against adults that victimize or abuse for their own selfish desires. Once you become an adult, it's kind of easy to scoff or brush off the concerns and troubles of those younger than you. But Persona 5 makes a really compelling case for why it's important to keep listening to those younger than you. People who haven't yet formulated an idea of their place in the world, who are still figuring things out and thus aren't as ground down to the way things are and are still thinking of the way things could or should be. But then, before things ever get too heavy, the game reminds you that it's all just a bit of fun too, with a transforming cat bus or a demon that's really just after a nice little chinwag. There's a great story in there, but you don't have to think too much about it if you don't want to. You can just grind enough money to buy a fancy smoothie at the juice bar, if that's what you want. My real-life social circle is suffering just so I can maintain my popularity in-game. I mean, I had a feeling I'd like Persona, but no one warned me that I'd very likely lose my entire life to it. In the absence of fun little graphics announcing the development of a relationship in real life, ranking up your confidant level becomes less of a chore and more of an obsession.
I knew you were an amateur.
I guess for a lot of people, I'm probably stating the obvious with all this. But I went into playing Persona 5 thinking I'd find it quirky, cutesy, quite fun, and maybe a little bit overbearing. I was not expecting for it to get its hooks in me quite the way it did. So, if you've never tried it and are after an RPG to steal your life away in the best possible way, you might want to give it a go. Just make sure you have a bowl of ramen on standby. And if you enjoyed this video, do give us a like and a subscribe for more from Eurogamer. Bye!
That's all she wrote.
Okay.
Yeah.